that ultimately you are responsible for this whole fiasco?
No.
You're not responsible. Who is responsible?
The people that I trusted to run it, and then maybe the people they trusted.
What does that say to you, John?
That's about as many lines of separation as he can afford at this point. But the problem with that answer, if you know anything about Rupert Murdoch, and frankly, the Brits who are questioning him have been doing a pretty good job of it because they do know a lot about Rupert Murdoch. The problem is that this guy has always been one of the most hands-on media people in the world. He is not one of those, kind of hedge fund guys who buys a TV network or a newspaper because he happens to have a passing fancy. To Rupert Murdoch's credit, and this is the nicest thing I'll ever say about the guy, he is into the news business. He loves it. And so the notion that he would not be intimately involved in, basic policies and basic approaches to news, down to questions of whether you might hack phones or move some money around to the cops, is absurd. I mean, it's a comic notion that he would not have at the very least, have set the tone that would be responsible for what happened.
John Nichols, we're talking with from The Nation magazine. In the UK, it's quite clear now that if you want to become prime minister, you have to go through Rupert Murdoch. That regardless of your party, frankly, Margaret Thatcher went to Murdoch and asked for his support. He gave it. She became prime minister. John Majors, her protege, went to Murdoch and asked for his blessing. He got it. He became prime minister. Tony Blair then came forward and said, "Okay, I'm on the other side. I'm Labour, but I'd like your blessing." He got it. He became prime minister. And around 2005, 2006, apparently when this hacking began, suddenly Tony Blair became far more conservative. Who knows why or if there's an association there. And then Gordon Brown followed Tony Blair. He asked for his blessing. He got it, although it didn't last very long. And so then David Cameron came along and said, "I'd like your blessing." And Murdoch went back to the Conservative Party, to the Tories, and said, "Okay, I'll give you my blessing." And in fact gave him a headline the day of the election. Will his was it Kinnock? No, I'm thinking of if he wins, will the last person leaving England turn the lights out, please? I mean, on the day of the election. And so
it was Brown that he was running against. So
and so everybody gets it in the UK now, and I think that there's been a kind of an understanding all along. But everybody gets it right clear out in the open right now that if you want to have power in the United Kingdom, you've got to dance to Rupert Murdoch's tune, or at least he's got to be on board with you. Why is it that Americans, particularly Republican Americans, don't realize that basically no nationally prominent Republican can get or hold that seat without the not just tacit but explicit approval, endorsement, and aggressive promotion of Murdoch's Fox News and New York Post?
Well, I mean, you've got to the heart of this matter here, Tom, and this is a big deal. It's funny, I've done a lot of international media over the last few days, and they also get it. The weird thing is Americans are the only people that do not recognize, as well as we should. I think so you do, and many of your listeners do, but a lot of the political intelligentsia doesn't, that there is nothing about the current story that is necessarily unique to Great Britain. Certainly, some of the hacking in that may or may not have occurred in the U.S., but the style of journalism, I mean, let's take a look at the New York Post. The New York Post is America's, quintessential daily tabloid newspaper, the closest thing that we have in the U.S. to a British-style tabloid. And it has had scandals. Editors of Page 6 and other parts of the paper have gotten in all kinds of trouble for all kinds of journalistic misbehavior. So right at that level, there's linkages and connections. But you're going to the deeper thing, the deeper reality. And that is the suggestion that somehow Murdoch had a political agenda that he exercised aggressively in England, but then didn't exercise aggressively in the U.S. is absurd. Of course he has. And it is important to put all the pieces together here and to recognize that Fox is a vetting operation for the Republican Party. You come up or go down based on the extent to which you are embraced and celebrated by Fox. But there's other elements of that. The New York Post, in America's largest city and America's kind of major media center, the New York Post plays a very powerful vetting role. And the important thing to understand about that vetting role is that it isn't always for Republicans. Remember that Murdoch had a flirtation with Hillary Clinton,
right?
And in fact was a veteran of and sympathizer with, supporter of Hillary Clinton when she ran for the Senate, and also significantly, if you take a look at Fox's coverage of the 2008 presidential race, I mean there was a clear pro-Hillary Clinton bias on Fox TV in that period. So much of what you just ran through with Britain also plays out in the United States.
You point out in your article, Rupert Murdoch has gamed American politics every bit as thoroughly as Britain's over at the Nation website, thenation.com, that when Murdoch appeared before the House Judiciary Committee in May of 2003, he said, we basically supported the Bush policy. What he didn't point out to the committee, and apparently nobody on the committee pointed out to him, was that he had some business before the Bush administration.
Oh, yeah. I mean, here's the interesting thing. Rupert Murdoch has walked the alleys and the sinews and neighborhoods of Capitol Hill as much as any media mogul in the world. And he has had a lot that he's asked for. He has asked for waivers that allow him to dramatically expand his empire. He's asked for waivers that allow him to cross lines of media ownership that by law, mainly our antitrust laws, but other laws as well, we try to keep separate. He has sought a FCC rule change that would allow him to own the newspaper, the radio stations, and TV stations all in the same market to create a one-size-fits-all news for major cities, even a city as large, say, as Boston or New York. He has aggressively sought increases in the line that we have a barrier in the States for how much media one individual or one company can own in the broadcast sector. He's sought to increase that on a regular basis. And here's the kicker, Tom, the key bit of information. Every one of those things I just listed, he won.
Right.
He got what he asked for.
So it's about political power. We just have 10, 15 seconds left. Am I the only person on the planet who thinks it's suspicious that Sean Hoare was found dead yesterday, he being the only guy who could connect Murdoch and the Cameron government?
I think everybody thinks that's suspicious, and I think there's a hell of a lot of stories yet to come. And the most important of them is going to be about Murdoch going after not celebrities, but after politicians. There's going to be a lot to come out there.
Okay, John Nichols, thenation.com. John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Good speaking with you.